Hey everybody, today I'm taking a look at the Natasha Denona Yucca palette. I know most people have already seen reviews on this. It's been out for a little while. It literally arrived the day I left for my work trip. And so today, I'll be honest, the air quality is terrible here in Boston. It's messed with my allergies, migraines, everything. So I'm a little off, but I did want to get this review up and talk a little bit about the palette, but I'm going to do like a shorter version video today. As you can see, I already have it on my face. I did record me putting it on, doing the look, so I'll have that go up when we talk about it. But let's get into just the details of the palette. So this is the Natasha Denona Yucca palette, WFW, Y-U-C-C-A. I told you, it's not good. The air quality's bad. So 24-month shelf life, not tested on animals, paraben-free, alcohol-free, preservative-free. This is like the mid-size palettes. These are the sizes I like more. There's 15 shades in here. It's a very grungy green palette. I'll compare it to some others at the end of the video just so you can see. These are removable. There's little pinholes on the back if you've never bought any of the Natasha Denona mid-size palettes. And I'm going to go through the different formulas that are in here because that's actually kind of interesting before we get into me showing you the actual application. And sorry about like the no jewelry and dress up to, I was like, nope, it's not going to happen. I couldn't, like earrings, I was just like, yeah. My head hurts too bad. It's not happening. It's $69 for the palette. It's described as the palette of the summer. It's a perfect balance of green-brown hues for earthy everyday or shimmering statement summer looks. Buttery smooth formulas provide all-day wear and seamless applications, including 4 new shades in the latest sparkling foiled formula, which I do want to talk about in a little more detail. So we'll go through that. So the formulas that are in here, we have 15 shades, like I said. We have classic mattes, cream powders, metallics, and sparkling foiled formulas. The sparkling foiled formulas, that's like a lot to say. You can tell what they are even without looking at the back of this, but I'm going to go through them with you. So I think you can see, in fact, if I do it this way, that way, I have the cover on the mirror, so it shouldn't blind anyone. We have Plantasia. Plantasia? Yeah, Plantasia. Okay. Just making sure I have the right name there. Plantasia, which is the sparkling foiled. Then we have Calathea, which is the cream powder. Then we have Como Ribi, which is another of the foiled. You can tell by just looking at it. Acacia, which is a creamy matte. Classic matte, sorry. Camu Camu, which is another classic matte. We have Tipu, which is a classic matte. Elysian, which is one of the foils. You can tell just like looking at that. It's kind of got like a purpley tone to it. Valley, which is a classic matte. Citrine, classic matte. Ray is a metallic. Flax, which is a good cool brown, is a classic matte. Fushi, which is a creamy powder. Macchia, which is a foil, which is what I have on the top of my eyes today. Ixia, which is a classic matte. And then Willow, which is a classic matte. I'll show you all the ones that I have on my eyes when I go through the actual demo. I'll have the swatches go up right now. And so let me just explain a couple of things that I would say in my experience with using these now. I've used them a couple of times. The sparkling foiled formula is the creamiest foiling formula I've used outside of maybe Sydney Grace. It's really intense and very smooth. Like it's ridiculously smooth. And it goes really nicely on the eye, and it swatches beautifully as well. The classic mattes are good. They're Natasha Denona mattes. I will say the Willow is a little patchy in the swatch, but on my eye, and when we get to that demo part, I had no problem. It went on perfectly. So I think it's just the intensity of the shade, and it just doesn't swatch as well, but it looked great on the eye. The metallic Ray is very pretty. I use that as well on the eye. It's a really nice metallic. And I'm just going to say, to get it out of the way, in case this is all you've come for, the palette is really good. The shade, the formula is excellent. They all perform beautifully. I think it's just a matter of, A, do you like these shades? I would call them grungy, like kind of grungy green, grungy browns. And there's a yellow in here, camo, which is almost like a puce color. Well, citrine's almost like a puce color. They're very close. I'll explain when I get to it. Like the camo is more bright. The citrine is more puce, but camo is more like fluorescent. But the thing is, these are like avocado greens, browns with yellow undertones. Like, I would say, if you like that kind of color story, you're going to love this. The formula is excellent. It's really good. Everything I've done with it looks fantastic. It's just a question of, do you like those colors? Do you like those shades? And frankly, do you need another palette? You know, $69 for 15 shades, pretty decent compared to a lot of the eyeshadow palettes that are out there. But also, are you somebody who uses 15 shadows? Like, would you prefer to have a quad? And I am going to compare it to the Tom Ford, so you can see that, the khaki one that came out. So yeah, you know, long story short, the formulas are excellent. $69. I really like the foils. They are beautiful. You can see them in the swatch. And when I put them on my eye, you know, you'll be able to see, like, just amazing. So I'm going to close my eyes for a second so you can just see the look before we get into the application. And like I said, I'll put it up on camera and talk over it. But it's just, it is stunning. Again, though, I mean, you know, we're at a point now, or at least I'm at a point where I have so much makeup, it's like, do I need this? But, you know, if we're talking just quality, I have a little bit of flaking here. If I'm just talking about quality, it's pretty amazing. What I used on my eyes, and as we go through, Valley, I used Valley, Tipu, Camo, Ray, Ixia, Willow, Macchia. I think those are all the ones that I used on my eye today. So let's get to the actual application. Okay, so if we're looking at the video, I started with, I think that was Valley. Yes, started with Valley. Put that all over the eye with a very fluffy brush. Like, just kept it very spread out, trying to keep it as, you know, diffused as possible. And then went in with, I think it's Tipu. If it's Acacia, I'll put it down below. And like sort of defined the crease a little bit more. Ixia I put on the lid to kind of give the lid a little bit more of a base before I put on anything else, because my eye shade is like pretty pale and pretty pink, and I wanted to have like a warmer base to put down, so I put the Ixia down on that. Actually I didn't use Willow, I used Calathea. Sorry guys, Calathea. This is what happens when you try to film with a headache. Calathea was the green that I used at the outer corner and into the crease. I put the Camo in the crease of the inner corner of the eye, and kept it like very, very light. But I have to say, it works really. It's a very bright, very fluorescent shade. It's not a shade that I would wear like on my lid, but for somebody with a deeper skin tone, I think the contrast would be really amazing. I put Ray on the sort of inner half of the eye. That metallic is really, really beautiful. I think that's fantastic. And then Macchia I used on the lid itself, like all over the entire eye, to give it that really foiled look. All the foils in here are really impressive. Like, they look stunning. They do kind of take over a little bit, but in a really good way. And then under the bottom of the lash line, I put in the Calathea again, and then I went over it with Valley a little bit to kind of brown it out so it's not, you know, too green. And all of that, you have this look. So I really think that, you know, I summed it up really early. It's a short video because the product is excellent. All of the different formulas perform the way they should. There's nothing in here. Like I said, the one that I would say is like the least good is the Willow in the swatching. Like, in other words, it's not as creamy, but it went on the eye perfectly. And when I've used it, like I didn't have any problems with it. So I have to say, guys, I just, I'm very impressed with the formula. Price point from in my world of what I'm buying, $69 is pretty reasonable. Again, it just depends on one, if you like the color story, if you like a bigger palette, if you need any more of these types of shades. I don't. I have so much as it is. But I do want to just show you in comparison just some recent green palettes that are, you know, might be of interest to you. So this is the Dior Backstage. This is the khaki neutrals. I actually did a video with this one too. Can you see like this one, the khaki neutrals? Yes, there are some like golds and browns and stuff, but see how much more yellow leaning this one is? More like, you know, orangey, yellowish browns and greens. That's the thing I want to like point out in this. It's definitely more grungy, more earthy. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills, the Nouveau palette, which I really, really like. I think it's an excellent palette. But again, there are similarities with the color stories, but this is again more earthy, more yellowy, more, has like more of that warm, peachy kind of earthy, yellowy kind of undertone that a lot of the green ones, the palettes I have don't really have that. They lean that way sometimes, but you know, this one is definitely more so. This is a Sydney Grace palette. This is a Mountain Trail, which is like one of my favorites. And you can see there are more similarities there. Like this has a little bit more of that yellow, like leaning shades, like the browns and stuff, but still, this is definitely more, you know, yellow leaning, warm leaning. Mustard is the word I'm looking for. It has like more of a mustard almost tone to a lot of the shades in this palette. So if you like those tones, I think you'll definitely like this. Last but not least, I want to show you Tom Ford. This is Velour's Khaki. And you can just see totally different kinds of tones from this to this. Now, of course, this is only 4 shades, but this is a much cooler toned, peachy pink almost in this shade especially, undertone than this Natasha Denona. This is a very different color story. I also wanted to pull out, because I forgot about it for a second, the new khaki from Dior. The one thing I would say is, again, very different color stories. This is obviously, you know, far less shades. But the shade in the middle here, in the khaki, this, I think I called it like puce kind of shade. This one, I think, has more similarities with some of the shades that are in this. So here's the one from Dior. See how they look like they're from a similar family? So if you really like the Dior khaki shade in the middle, like if that was your favorite shade, then I would say, and you were like, oh, I wish there was more of that, that's kind of what this palette is. It's a mustardy, yellowy, warm leaning, for the most part, color story. There are pops of like coolness in here. Like this green here, this is definitely a much cooler green. And this shade here, the Elysian, I think it's called, you can tell that's a very cool shade. It's not as warm. In fact, I think the foils, I'll just put all the foils on the back of my hand. I think the foils kind of go and warm. The one that I chose to put on my eye, the Macchia, is definitely the greenest. So here's Macchia. Here's Elysian. See how cool that leaning that one is? This is Corneribi. This is Plantasia, so it has more of like that peach. But you can see these are more warm leaning shades, but this one, Elysian, is definitely cool leaning. So there are like, I'd say 2 or 3 in here that do have like the brown. Flax has a little bit more of a coolness too, to sort of level it out. So if you don't want, you know, a completely warm look or warm leaning and you need something to balance that with one of the cooler shades, you can do that with flax. You can do that with Elysian, you can do it. Willow has a little bit of that too. So there are, you know, it's not completely warm. I think this was designed to make sure that there were coolness in here so that you could level it out if you wanted to. So, you know, it's one of those things, like, I really like this color palette. I like these shades. I actually think they look good on me with my coloring, but it's certainly not going to be for everybody. But the formula is excellent, which, I mean, you know, you can't please everybody with color stories, but at least the formula can be good. I also want to mention, just as a side note, because this is all about Natasha Denona today, but I did pick up the Westman Atelier Lit Up Highlight Stick in Parla. I noticed it was on the Sephora site, and I don't have the shade. And I think this was like a limited edition shade at some point. It was in a it was in some type of gift set, I think. I really don't remember. But I hadn't picked up the shade. And if you see it, it's a very nice, it's hard to show on my skin, but it's a very nice peachy highlight. So I'm just looking at the Westman Atelier site to see how Gucci Westman describes it. She describes Parla as a glassy oyster pearl. So I'm gonna put that on my face. I have a little bit of bronzer on today, but no blush, because I really wanted to be about Natasha Denona's new palette. But let's just check this out. This type of product, this creamy gloss stick highlighter, sorry, and some of the cream blushes that I've gotten lately, there's a new brush coming out from Sonia G, a sheer buffer, which will be exactly what I would want to use. Usually what I do is I put the product on a brush and then put it on my face, but I just want to show you, you know, like putting it straight on the face. You can do that with all of the Westman products. The reason I don't tend to do it is it kind of displaces the product underneath. When you do it that way, when you put it on with a brush, you usually have better control, and it, you know, frankly, the product tends to work better. But I'm looking forward to that Sonia G sheer buffer brush. I'll mention it on IG as soon as I get a chance. But I just think that's a really beautiful highlight. And the Westman Atelier products are all excellent. I have a lot of the blushes, a lot of the highlighters, but this stick in particular, this color, this Parla Glassy Oyster Pearl, I think it's gonna be obviously more subtle on me because, you know, I'm so pale, but I just really love the sheen of it. I love the elegance of it, and I wanted to share that with you guys today. So that's it for today, guys. Relatively short video for me. Thanks so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it, and I hope to see you in another video really soon.